Hi guys, and welcome to Life of Candy. Today we're going to talk about architecture and how I feel about architecture. Okay, so in my opinion, I think when I look for great architecture, I look for the craftsmanship in it. How they carve the wood. How much detail went into it? How much time was spent to create either a fireplace, a staircase, a storefront. In this video, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different types of architecture that I appreciate, and you can see a flow of it. But before I show you all those beautiful pictures, let me tell you a little bit more. Now, have you ever went inside of a building, and when you went inside, something captures your interest about maybe a staircase, how it spirals? Up, right? Or the banister where you hold on to go up the stairs, and it might have an image. It might show a carved horse or a lion. I'll show you. I'll insert some clips so you can see what I'm talking about. But have you ever, you see a lot of these things in older buildings, and yeah, like the wood shops, the people who carve the little pieces for this, yeah, it's beautiful. The pieces are amazing, and if you take the time to appreciate and by the way, my kids are in the background, so if you hear them, you already know why. If you take the time to appreciate how the staircase spirals, or the texture of the wood, right? Even the colors of the wood when they choose it. It's beautiful. And let's say, for instance, we have, let me think, a storefront. I said earlier, storefront. So what does the storefront look like? When you go walk up to the store, it's supposed to capture your interest. From the time you get out your car, it might have a cobblestone walkway, right? What does it look like? It might have nice chairs in front of it. It might have some greenery inside. Or on the outside. To me, a good storefront captures your interest from the time you get out your car. So now it piques your interest, and it makes you curious to see what's inside, right? Because look how much detail you put into the storefront, right? So maybe the color captures you. Maybe it's a certain type of green or a certain type of pink. Maybe it's a yellow, something that pops, right? A pop of color. Now you walk in there. You're still outside, but you're on the pavement now. So follow me. And you see maybe flowers, hanging plants, right? And it cascades around the windows. So maybe you see flower boxes on the windows. And then you look at the door, how the store door is. Or the store window, they have certain calligraphy on the windows, right? Everything is intentional. And remember, this whole series of videos that I've been posting is about being intentional. Right, I'm sorry that we swayed off yesterday because I had to tell you about my story. But this channel was meant to be a positive space to just relax, unwind, and just, decompress and see something different that you never imagined seeing before. If you go back at some of my videos, there's landscapes, right? And I think I'm going to post maybe tomorrow some sunsets and some scenery. Yeah, like the time-lapse videos, because I like watching time-lapse videos as well. How the clouds go over the horizon, as the day changes, the clouds move. How maybe buildings go up over a period of time. Maybe how the sun rises and sets. Maybe when the moon comes out and it goes back in. Maybe it goes from night to day. These type of videos are so good to watch. And the reason why I like it so much is because I'm really passionate about the deaf community and the blind community. Now imagine being deaf and you can't hear anything. So you need something to pique your interest. You need some kind of entertainment. So what do? You get a video that has all the elements. I would call it splendor. For example, I posted other videos where the flowers are opening, it's blooming, and it's slow. So it's slowed down and it's coming out little by little. I posted videos with waterfalls. Now imagine being deaf and watching that beautiful scenery unfold before your eyes. It's amazing. And on the flip side, if you're blind, may I suggest sound? Different tones of sounds. Maybe you hear the birds chirping and it's loud and it echoes in the background. You know what I mean? Or the thunder, it shakes and it's powerful, right? And you could hear it in the foreground, and you could hear it in the front of you, and you could hear it echoing at the sides, and it's like knocking on each other. Or you're watching a movie that's scary. You're listening to a movie that's scary. Remember back in the day, before they had TV screens, people listened on radios. So you had to be creative in your story. Most people were listening during that time. So everybody ran to their radios. That's why radios were so big back in those days. So now think about that moving forward. I feel like we should have never threw away the idea of listening to radio, because there's so much people with disabilities that still can't see, that still can't hear. And if we give them those experiences, it'll be breathtaking. Even for us, maybe we should blindfold ourselves and listen to a film from start to finish. I envision myself creating content like that in the future, and being able to just dive into that content and watch it, and be a willing participant to watch it and experience it for myself to see if it works. I feel like it's important to when you're working on projects, to dive in. You have to dive in. How else would you make sure that it works, right? Put yourself in that person's position. Let's go back to architecture now. Fireplaces, the way the mantle sits, right? And you may cover it in flowers, or it might be a carved mantle, right? And it's either floral carvings, animal prints, different shapes, and it's so beautiful. I love that, the way it looks when it's like that. See, I'm not a person that likes a lot of modern touches. Sometimes I like dated touches. Even with clothing, I think about patterns. I think about texture. Like, I took fashion design. So if you look at my shirt, the way the pleats flow, see that? The way it crumples on there, the flow of the fabric at the top. Now I envision creating different, shapes of the clothing. Like, for example, I want to create a cascading rose outfit with like an off-the-shoulder sweater and put it in rose pink. And I know it's an idea. If you want it, make sure you give me credit for it. But it's cascading roses, but the fabric is like a sweater material, and the roses it's actual roses created out of sweaters, a sweater material, and it's draped going across, and your shoulders hang, it's off the shoulders, so it's very feminine, and it's complementary to the body, and it would be in my favorite color, this color, rose pink, or dusty pink, depending on how you want to look at it. Another thing, besides textures, besides textures and fabric and the flow of fabric, you could do drapes in the same way. You could do sheets in the same way, the way it feels. I feel like, I'm not a big person of prints. I'm a big fan of texture. I'm a big fan of what your fabric looks like, how it fits you. You know what I mean? And I look at buildings like that as well. Like, everything has to look a certain way. I look at, besides storefronts, I talked about the mantles on fireplaces, then the staircases, which I'll post pictures along the way. Your house, the same way, the crown moldings, the way the crown moldings sit, the way it wraps around the walls, and the shapes and the texture. I'll insert a clip of a video of this. I enjoy water, fountains. I feel like it represents tranquility in your life. So I enjoy waterfalls. Everywhere I go, I have some kind of water feature around me. And from fountains, either have a smaller fountain or I have a bigger fountain, or if I don't have a fountain, I have, let's just say, if I don't have a water source somewhere, something's wrong. Because every place I lived, there were fountains. And statues, the way they carve statues, I love the way it looks. Even, remember I posted a Bob Ross painting in an earlier video. I love the way he painted. I love the way the water looked and it flowed. I love the way he called the trees his little friends, and he put the highlights from the sun, and I enjoyed watching him paint. And I feel like that's what life looks like. If you take a video of a whole day, right? And you do like a time-lapse video. Let's say a bird flying to a tree and taking care of her young, and you've seen the egg cracking, and the flow of color and the trees, the sound that comes from just the natural day, the sounds from the water dropping from a waterfall, the sound from children playing in a parking lot, the natural sounds. That's what I like. So with architecture, I think of the same thing. I'm looking for strong pieces. If it's wood, it's carved a certain way. If it's a wall, you have certain pieces that's carved a certain way. And even stairs, how it's created and built. I remember a long time ago, I saw my neighbor building stairs, and he was Polish. And he sat there, and every day he poured the cement, he mixed, and it was just him. He had no help. He built this whole staircase by himself. And I thought that was so amazing to watch. And I said this before in an earlier video, so I'm just touching back on some key points that, you know, I've said in earlier videos. So just go through my collection and see if, you know, you like anything that you see there. Another thing that I like is the way the bathtub sits. You know, the older style bathtubs had the legs. I don't like that. I mean, it looks appealing, but it's not convenient. You want comfort. You know, you want something that's wide, something that you could relax in, something where you have jets, right? You got to think about relaxation and how it hits your back, the pressure points on your body, and also with your shower. I like waterfall showers, you know, so if you have, I like the square ones. If you have the square ones and it falls, you know, and then maybe you have the other ones, you know, it's wrapping around you. So you may have one over here, one on top, one in the back. So everywhere is getting washed. So it's when you think about what you want, just be intentional. Be intentional in laying out exactly what you're looking for, exactly what you want. Even I feel like even your human body, it's like architecture. How so? I'll tell you. The silhouette, the shape. Our creators created all of us in certain shapes, right? Now, if you look at your shadow, right, and you stand at a certain angle, and you may put a hat on, that's a beautiful silhouette. You could take that picture. You could paint a picture that looks like that. I like art pieces like that flows like that. You know, the natural flow of the body, the fabric along, cascading around the body. Yeah, and it's highlighting key points of your figure, you know, and it's tasteful in the way it drapes you. I like things like that. And the depth of hair color, I said this a lot, you know, if you could have layers of hair, you start at one texture, base texture, right? Let's say you're doing red. Now you have several shades of red that deepens the look. So it's not like, it ends up being like a three-dimensional, you know, 3D hairstyle, because it's everything that I think about from cooking. How do you layer the textures of the flavors? You have a base texture, right? Then you add different flavors. It's the same way here. You have a base hair color and you add different layers of color, different shades that bring it out, and it pops better. Your hair doesn't look flat. But if you don't do it in that way, your hair will look flat, and you'll wonder if you dyed it yourself or dyed it at home. So a good colorist can, you know, make your hair come to life. No matter if you shake it, the way it flows, it has depth to it. Even a good cut, you know, a good haircut has different layers, and it fits your face. You know, a stylist that can read your face, that could look at your angles, even a photographer, same thing. I think everything in life is based on flow, based on architecture. I think there's architecture in everything. We look at architecture as only buildings, but I think it's in everything that we do. Even the way tables look, you know, the way it's carved, the way it's constructed, how thick it is, you know, everything. Automobiles, classic cars. And my question is this, and I know I'm going off a little bit, but I feel like it's all encompassing. It's still, you know, the way, it's still art, you know, it's still art. It's still the foundation of what it was supposed to be. You take a classic car, right? Let's say a Chevy, any Chevy. And the older the car, the rarer the car is, right? So now you want to pick a certain color, right? Let's say you pick like a deep green, almost aqua, right? And that color pops on an older vehicle. Now, what pairs well with that green? It's like topaz, yeah, kind of like topaz, kind of like aqua, something, you know, it's like a minty color, right? Now, let's say, what pairs well with that? Would you put gold on that? No, it's gonna clash. You put chrome on that, the chrome will pop with that color, you know, and you don't want to put chrome everywhere. You want to put tasteful touches of chrome. You may have chrome rims, you may have the brackets on the car, maybe even the emblem is chrome, but you want it to look a certain way. And then the interior, what kind of interior you may do with the car? What about a tan? You know, what about a car that's a color that's complementary to that green? So when you're thinking of color and you're thinking of creating something, you want to create it in a way that it pops. Everything is about popping. When you walk in a house and you want to, from the driveway, you want to look at the pavement. That's why I like cobblestone. Cobblestone, because it's beautiful. You ever saw a driveway that was well paved? It starts the process of the way it looks when you walk in there. You're like, wow. You know, you take the time to every detail, right down to the mailbox. You know, you get a really good mailbox, you paint it, you have some flowers in certain places, and you put some stones around it. Beautiful. You cement it into the ground properly. So by the time you drive up, you get up, you see your nice mailbox, you see your driveway, you go up, you see the exterior of the house, and that's well constructed, it's colored the way you want it. Put some detailed touches in your house. A lot of people take their houses for granted. I have a house, that's it. But there's a lot of people who don't have houses, and they envision what they would do if they had a house. So I would say, appreciate what you have. Appreciate every detail of your life, you know, because you never know. You love where you are, love your life, and find something that you value. Even flowers, you know, think about, I said in an earlier video that depending on where you go, there's different flowers. So for me, I like to find exotic looking flowers and different colors. And you could do flowers like this, plastic flowers, or you could do real flowers. You could add it in. But make sure that whatever you do, it represents you and not someone else's idea. Because if it represents you and you took the time to pick out what you like, the colors and everything, the flow of it, now you have a story to tell. It's a conversation piece. You know, somebody comes in your house and they see a painting. Why did you pick that painting? Why? Could you explain why you picked that painting, or did you just pick it up because it just looks nice? It's just pretty. No, think about your painting. What does it remind you of? That's what I mean by going to art museums. When you go to an art museum, they're trying to teach you something. They're trying to show you something through art. You know, whether it's the way it's speckled, you know, the way the art is thrown, where they're trying to teach you anger. You know, it was a temperament, right? Or are they trying to show you the flow of the art piece? Or are they trying to teach you a story? Or are they trying to take you to a certain place in time? Can you see what they're trying to show you? Are they trying to trick you and try to see what you see when you see their art? You never know, right? So just think about why you do what you do, and be intentional in how you do what you do. And guess what? You'll always have something to say. You'll always love where you are and what you have. Even down to the lights. A chandelier. Why did you pick that chandelier? Why, of all the chandeliers you saw, you picked that one? You know what I mean? Or why did you have that lamppost in your driveway? Yeah. Why did you pick that color? Oh, it was just there. A lot of people would just say it was just there. But why? Well, if you can't tell a story about why your house is set up a certain way, then why do you have it? You just have it to live there? You should always have a story for everything you have in your life. You know why? Because you have to make your life your own. It's important to make your life your own. Because when you make your life your own, you get more comfortable in your space. Yeah. So I say all this to say, appreciate good architecture. Appreciate the wood carvers. Appreciate the masons. Appreciate the steel men. You know, the men that yeah, look at glass art. That's another video I could show you again. But glass art, you know, I'm gonna show you some doors and some other beautiful pieces of architecture along the way. So, see you next time. And I hope life is kinder to you and your family today. Goodbye.